Chamber this week, we're talking about one of history's silliest wars, an RPG that puts combat in the background, outlandish monsters and how to use them, and two sides to the superhero coin. And of course, all kinds of other fun, silly shenanigans. All this and more on Phantom Ruler. Hey everyone, this is Joe.
And I'm Cody.
And this is going to be an interesting episode of the podcast, I assume. You might hear some kitten meows at some point. That's a possibility. It might be a little breathy because, like, oh boy, Cody and I don't breathe like human beings do. But we're just prepping you for this right away because my normal headphones are broken, so I'm using a different rig. And we were doing all kinds of audio tests, so we're just going to roll with it. It'll be cool. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Hey, Cody, what are some nerdy stuff you've been up to as of late?
Well, I've been playing the games I was playing last week, which was Into the Breach and Sea of Thieves, and I also picked up another indie game that I will talk about in the video game section.
Ooh, sounds like fun.
Yeah. What have you been up to, my dude?
Yeah, I've been reading, I suppose, more than I have been as of late. I'm doing a reread of The Lord of the Rings, and I'm reading a couple of other books. But as far as like watching stuff and things like that, I don't know. I've been kind of busy as of late. I don't know what's been up with that. I've been reading. Oh, actually, I've been rereading the Artemis Fowl series, which was a book series I was a huge fan of as a little kid, because I found out that they're making a movie adaptation of it directed by Kenneth Branagh.
Very cool.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of Artemis Fowl?
I've heard the name, but I don't actually know what you're talking about.
It's about this like kid who's like a super genius.
Cool.
And he discovers that like the fairy realm exists underneath like the mantle of the earth, and he's trying to reclaim his family's fortune. So he kidnaps a fairy and tries to steal all their gold. And there's like two protagonists, and the other protagonist is named Holly Short, and she is a member of LEP Recon, which stands for Lower Element Patrols Recon. So Leprechaun is just an acronym for like the covert like fairy cops.
That's funny. I like that.
Yeah, I remember digging them as a kid, and I was surprised that they hadn't, tried to adapt them yet, because, like, literally, if it's a kid's book, people try to adapt it.
Yeah, I mean, does the book hold up to today's modern reads?
I'm still kind of early on in it, but, like, I just remember it's feeling kind of delightful, because it's, like, discovering an old friend, and that was right around the time when I was starting to transition away from, like, kids' books. So, like, I only read, like, the first 3, I want to say, and I'm decided I'm going to try to read all of them just to see, like, if it's a good series, even though, let's be real, I doubt that it's going to get all of the movies made, and so it might just be a really solid standalone. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, we have a fun episode for you planned this week. We got some weird, wacky things to talk about, and as I was prepping for the history section, I was finding more and other weird, wacky things for future episodes.
Yes!
Which, yeah, right? It should be fun.
So, like, on a scale of 1 to, like, wacky inflatable arm flailing tube man, how wacky is this history section?
This week's?
Yeah.
I would say it's pretty wacky. I think this is one that some people have heard of before, but I feel enough people haven't heard of it that I really wanted to talk about it. And I don't know what made me remember it, but I was driving around today and I was like, wait a second, that would be perfect. It is a little conflict from Australia that is called the Emu War.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit. So the Emu War is also known as the Great Emu War, and this was a war that existed in Australia in 1932, and this was the unsuccessful attempt to curb the population of emus in Australia with soldiers armed with guns and things like that.
Rude.
And so This was kind of a... Well, I mean, that's what you do to hunt, I suppose. Uh, but yeah, so this is a weird little conflict that is kind of a satirical thing that developed in Australia as people were learning more and more about this just absurd thing that was happening in the Australian outback. But a little bit of background on this. So after World War One, we have a large number of soldiers coming back to Australia, and they were hoping to find, jobs and things like that. And they're also coming back to, the Great Depression, which wasn't a fun time for anyone. It was literally a global, worldwide depression. Oh. But a lot of these men were given farmlands in the western parts of Australia, except that there was a problem because they had spent so many years fighting and not really tilling the fields and things like that. There was an influx in emus. So for those of you who don't know, which, it's possible, I don't know. Emus are gigantic, scary, flightless birds that have, rather large talons, and I also believe they have really hefty kicks. And they're, an indigenous animal to Australia that, without, a lot of human interference like that, are just going to kind of breed as they want. Almost, I would say the closest thing that we could compare it to in America would be deer overpopulation and things like that. Or I guess alligator overpopulation. So, if you're a person who follows the news or things like that, or, you live in a area like Ohio or things like that, you'll know that, every couple of years you'll get kind of a open range on deers because by, limiting their population, you're kind of helping them stay healthy, and we're, also helping your crops and things like that. So Australia was like, perfect, this is something we can do. It's going to employ some former soldiers, so give them something to do. It will help the farmers be able to produce the food that we need and stay profitable during this Great Depression, and it will, keep people busy and ignoring the fact that there is, a Great Depression going on. So this military involvement began in 1932, and actually had, a commander who was named Major G.P.W. Meredith.
That is a lot of letters.
Right? That's Britain for you. And so one of the main reasons why I say it was kind of satirically called a war was because in a lot of ways it was kind of an epic failure. Oof. Because I read in one of my sources as I was reading through this that there were 2 attempts for this war. The first one kind of epically failed, and then the other one, they realized that according to the official numbers, there were 986 kills, but they used 9,860 rounds. So that is a 10-to-1 ratio of bullets per kill for these emus. And so because of that, news media were starting to just kind of lampoon it, make fun of it. It's the Great Emu War, we can't hit the emus, things like that. And one of them is because, these emus are kind of hard to take down. But the other one is they started getting pretty smart. They actually learned how far the range of the guns were, and they learned exactly where they could stand without getting hurt. So, like I said, there were 2 attempts. In the first attempts, there were only, I believe, 2 gunners with guns, and they killed 12 birds before the guns completely jammed, and then the rest scattered before any could be killed. And then after 6 days, they claimed about 50 birds had been, taken down. But his men suffered no casualties. So congratulations, Meredith. You did it. I just wanted to read, I found this hilarious headline, if I can find it really quick. Oh, okay. So this is from the Sun Herald. If we had a military division with the bullet carry capacity of these birds, it would face any army in the world. They can face machine guns with the invulnerability of tanks. They are like Zulus, whom even dum-dum bullets could not stop. So this was, like the media was just going haywire with this. They thought it was the funniest thing ever that the Australian army was having such a hard time taking down, gigantic birds of prey. And if I can find it, there's this hilarious image that came from this area. And so, this was just kind of a bizarre little thing that existed. It was estimated that about 20,000 emus were starting to invade farmers' fields. And so, like, the reason it was a nuisance was they were eating, like, the crops that the farmers were making, which was making them less profitable. But only about 986 of the original 20,000 emus were killed. So that's, like I said, a 10-to-1 ratio. And eventually, the emus kind of wandered off on their own. But this was because they had successfully harvested the wheat. And so there was nothing left for them to eat in that area. And then after a while, they got wise and they just started building fences that the emus couldn't take care of. But, I remember first hearing about the emu war and sitting there baffled. I was like, there's no way that could be a real thing, Like, how could, why? And the more I read about it, the more fascinated I became about this because, it's just a bizarre little story of this army that had no idea what they were doing to fight what was essentially a very large bird. But yeah,
damn,
it's a fun little anecdote in history. And as I was going through, I was finding other fun search things, including like the Great Bucket War. So we're gonna go through there. I saw a thing about how. I don't actually want to spoil this one because this one's amazing. Let's just put it this way. After we talk about this one in an upcoming future episode, anytime you think you've royally like fucked up or things like that, you will never fuck up as bad as this historical event.
So I'm going to stop you right here. Did you just put a spoiler tag on history?
I did put a spoiler tag on history.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood that correctly. I was like, wait, is this the next step?
Yeah. I put a spoiler tag. I mean, I don't even want to tease it. I want everyone to hear this one fresh. Like, okay. I just learned about this one today, and I looked it up, and I sat there literally with my jaw dropped. That might be one that I might have to split up into a couple of smaller sections, because I don't know how much meat on the bones there is. All I know is that, oh my god, Cody, like, I don't even want to tell you. I want you to be surprised with this as well. That's how excited I am about it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I spoiler tagged history. But yeah, do you have any questions about the Emu War, history's silliest war?
I do. I have one.
Yes. Okay.
Would you say that no matter who won, we all lost?
That's interesting that you say that. It is an Alien versus Predator type situation.
Yes!
Yeah. Also, just to explain, a Lewis gun was a light machine gun that the U.S. designed, and then it was mass-produced in the United Kingdom. There was problems with it, though, which, like, it overheated and jammed really easily. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun because that was sort of the main problem in the war was it just kind of jammed up and the birds just ran away because history.
I still like that you're calling it a war.
I mean, obviously,
yeah,
that's what history calls it,
right?
I can't change that.
Yeah,
Cody. If I've ever said one thing about history, it's that history is finite and will never change ever.
Never, 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 never.
Never, ever, never, never, ever, never, ever, ever, never, ever, never. So yeah, that is the Great Emu War.
So good.
Australia's silliest war.
Oh.
Now, to be fair, Australia was important in other conflicts. I'm not bringing this up to, poke fun of Australia, but I just think it's really funny that there was this whole conflict about birds that they arguably kind of failed at.
Well, I think this is a lesson in using machine guns to attack giant birds.
Sure, and I also think it's in a weird way, it's one of those little stories about don't underestimate your enemies, I guess.
Yes, don't underestimate the giant flightless bird with the kicking power of a monster.
I mean, hey, they were smart enough to figure out how to stand away from the bullets.
Man, so they were so smart to stay away from the bullets.
I mean, hey, some humans haven't figured that mess out yet.
Rude.
I'm talking about like in wartime.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean I understand.
Yeah. Yeah, so how about that? The emus versus humans, the Great Emu War, kind of a farcical thing that was developed by the media that was kind of drawing attention to and poking fun of what was basically a large expenditure of a very silly thing.
Nice.
So yeah. So any other questions about history and about this Alien versus Predator style scenario that we found ourselves in?
No, I think we've closed I think we've discovered what there was to be discovered. We can close the book on this, I think.
Insert Foley of a book's closing sound here. Thud.
Oh, I was actually going to close this book.
Oh, did you close it? Oh, okay.
You're
which
rude.
Book?
Hold on.
Wait, which book? Oh, I like that Foley work.
Oh my god, that spike on the audio is going to be abysmal to take out.
I was looking. I know. How dare you? Don't you dare.
Oh, I'm going to turn it down so that our viewing audience doesn't literally die from ear bleeding.
Hey, I mean, that's a Joe. That's a Joe and Cody guaranteed. No.
We can't promise a lot, but what we can promise is that we will destroy your ears by the end of this whole podcast thing.
When we could just gonna be us like revving like motorcycle engines and just like clunking through like rooms and shit.
We're gonna run out of everything to talk about, and it's just gonna be let's find loud shit in our place and just jack it up and let the viewing audience hear it.
I like it already.
Yes.
Oh, hey, do you like the audio sounds of a beagle whining for food? Yeah, I bet you do. Here he is whining for food on the other end of the podcast.
Oh man, I can't wait. I can't wait for the future. The future is looking bright.
I agree with that. Listening audience, I have to love it with you guys. I'm very tired this week. I think that's probably partially the fact when I was driving around, I was like, oh shit, that's right. Australia tried to fight emus at one time. I've got to talk about that.
Oh man, it was gold.
All right.
So
anyways, I heard you had video. Hey Cody, I heard about this new thing that happened.
Yeah?
Recently.
What did you hear about?
I heard. Okay, so stick with me.
Okay, sticking.
I heard that there was this screen.
Okay.
And light appeared on the screen.
Yes.
And you could turn this little knob.
Oh my god, I'm looking at one right now.
You are?
I am.
And I heard you could use it to play virtual ping pong with your friends.
Yes. I think a Terry made that.
Oh, Terry made it. Wait, which Terry? You said a Terry. Were there multiple Terrys working on this game?
Yeah, just the one, just a Terry.
Oh, just a Terry. And then his co-producer is also named Terry. He's like, hey man, what the hell? I did that too.
It's actually a Terry was created and moved forward through history by several Terrys.
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
It's a shadow organization, and the only way you can join is if your name is Terry.
There we go. See, I heard that getting into the video game industry... Oh, shit, I just ruined the bit.
Oh,
damn it. But yeah, so A. Terry invented video games. Cody's talking about making Mike stand in the corner of his room while we record our podcast.
What? Oh, God, no. You brought that back?
I did bring it back.
Okay.
I promise. Don't call it a comeback.
Ugh.
That bad joke was here for years.
No.
Other Rocket, Here Comes the Boom. Other lyrics for that song.
That's
See,
good.
here's the thing. Here's my little. I'm going to take you behind the veil real quick, podcast listening audience. You never have to worry about copyright claims if you don't actually remember the words of the song that you're citing. You can remember enough so people will be like, I know he's quoting a song right now. I just don't know what song he's quoting.
Oh, God. Guys, we're a little loopy. I'm going to apologize for both of us. Today is late. Today has been going on for too long, and I'm going to talk about video games, damn it.
Yeah. So what did Terry bring to the table this week?
All right, Terry, my good friend in his secret shadow organization, made a indie game. This is all a lie. The developer...
Wait, Indie helped out too?
Yeah, Indie helped out as well.
Well, it sounds like it belongs in a museum.
Oh my god. We're never going to get past this episode if you keep talking like this.
It's gonna be like 4.5 hours, and like half of it is gonna be just me like interrupting with just the dumbest shit.
So the developer by the name of Bura, B-U-R-A, I don't know how...
Terry Bura, go
on. Created a modern day military RPG called Long Gone Days. It's a single player game, and it's done in it's in pixel art, if that makes sense, but it's pretty well done for what it is. It's kind of a weird take on the role-playing game genre. You play as a military sniper rookie who's known as Rourke, and this is where like the modern day kind of gets thrown out the window. There's like a secret organization of like military, like the super military that lives under the earth.
Huh.
Yeah, and you play as a rookie sniper who's going to the surface on his very first mission for the first time. And I'm not going to spoil the game because this is a very heavy story-based game, but Rourke, the main character, or I assume the main character, the guy I've been playing for the past 2-3 hours, he finds something on his first mission that has him question his military group.
Oh, is it they're fighting emus?
Not quite. I don't want to spoil too much, but what I will spoil is that it's a lovely little RPG. It's very heavy in story and less in combat. From what I gather, the combat is very... it takes a step back, which is actually kind of ironic and interesting for a military role-playing game. You play as a sniper, so there's kind of two modes of play. There's the sniper, where you kind of play like a pixel version of Silent Scope, for any of you who ever played that. Basically, you look down the barrel of a sniper rifle and you like pick off like far targets and things like that. And then the actual RPG, like the combat, is that old classic like in front of you Dragon Warrior style combat where it's turn-based. You're standing in front of the character, like you don't even get to see your character because it's supposed to look like you're seeing through the eyes of your character. It's turn-based. There's this kind of interesting morale system where instead of having like mana or stamina, you have what's called morale. And the higher your morale by conversations that you have, so you can like a big part of the game is talking with like the people you're working with and your kind of almost platoon, if you will. And if you answer certain things correctly, you get more morale. And there's not really an easier way to get this other than like going through combat. And so what happens is you can spend your morale on like extra abilities. So the first character, your main character, he's a sniper. So you get these kind of precision strikes that do a lot of damage, but those cost morale. Your second character, who's the platoon's medic, can heal people with the morale. And if the lower your morale gets, the less damage you do. But the higher your morale is, the higher chances you have to crit and do more damage. And there's like some kind of like critical mode when you get it to 100%, which is pretty gnarly. It's very interesting, and I'm not super far into it. And if you're not into kind of it seems very much like a drama where this new recruit or this kind of rookie sniper is kind of dealing with the concepts of war and kind of the darkness that war tends to bring out. And if you're just looking for like a role-playing game where you get to, shoot things or attack things, and you're not looking for like a story, this game probably isn't for you. Or if you absolutely hate pixel graphics, I know some people really don't like that, but I think this one's done pretty well. And it's been super fun, and it's $15 on Steam, so I think it is worth checking out.
Yeah, I'm actually, I might actually just go ahead and buy it as soon as we're done here. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, right now it's in, it says it's in early access, but okay. I don't know what is exactly early access about it, if I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, maybe the story's not all the way done, but so far for $15, I'm 3 hours in, and it's great. Super cool.
What's it called? The system? Is it morale?
Yeah, the morale system.
Like, that is like one of the most fascinating game mechanics I've heard of in like a really long time, actually.
Yeah, and it the way it's working so far is like, I only have 2 characters right now, and the way it's playing out is there are certain dialogue options that you have to choose between people. So like, your first guy is kind of like a, I don't want to say book nerd, that's not the right term, but he's very passionate about his job. So if you're not very serious about, if you're not serious with him, he tends to get very, you don't get as many morale points. But if you're very much like, yes, sir, or, very frank and straightforward, you get more morale points, which you use in combat. So
I think the term you're looking for is buy the books.
Huh. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even saying that as a joke, necessarily. I just, maybe everything I say sounds like a joke, and I have to reanalyze it.
And it's funny that all of this is very military themed this time. I also want to take another shout out to Into the Breach. I was playing a whole bunch of it yesterday, and I unlocked some new mechs. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it's super fun if you like puzzle strategy games with emphasis on giant mechs killing giant bugs. Into the Breach is super awesome.
Wait, can I ask you a question? Can you name your mechs, or are they named for you?
They start off named, but you can name pretty much everything.
Amazing, because that's the best part of Pacific Rim is those awesome mechs.
Yeah, and it's like roguelike, so if you die, you basically start over with random assets and things like that. Everything's kind of randomly generated. If you die, you don't get to take your leveled up pilot mechs with you. I actually lost my first mech pilot yesterday.
Oh.
And it was really sad because I miscalculated how a unit attacks because I had never seen it before, and I thought it was like a lobbing attack. So like it would like go to a certain distance, like kind of like an arced like artillery shot, but it was actually a straightforward shot that just kept going towards the end of the map, and that dude ate that bullet real bad.
Terry has taken everything from you.
Terry has, and it's very sad.
Terry.
Is this going to be our new bit?
It might be. I don't know. Let's see how people respond to it.
We'll get fan mail from Terry and find out. Hopefully he'll send us that Talon fanfic that I've been looking for.
Oh my god.
I'm the worst. I'm sorry.
This is gonna be a club banger of an episode. I can already tell. People are gonna point to this one. They're gonna be like, episode. That's the best one.
That's the one where we peaked. Episode
or
whatever.
Episode.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I mean that was the joke to suggest I didn't know that the episode that. So, anyways, oh, it's time to learn about how you can talk to us in middle section, middle section. Who's that? It's middle section time. I was gonna go a little bit more elaborate this week, but
well, you know, this was very elaborate considering last was middle section.
See, I was going for like a minimalist, like berserk bumper thing for last week. Also, I was like sick, and like also to suggest that when I say the phrase "I was going to go more elaborate," makes it sound like I put any amount of like pre-thought into it. And I just don't come up with something like on the spot.
If I ever see Joe during the week, he's actually practicing the middle section. We don't actually hang out anymore. He's just always trying to come up with the best middle section. So
that's true. I lock myself in my room and I just write middle sections. Themes. Yeah, it's a sad life now.
Hey guys.
So anyways, hey, welcome to the middle section.
Right.
Did you like the song? It was a good one.
If you want to tell Joe how bad the middle section song is, you can tweet at him at fandomr_podcast. That's our Twitter handle, and he's the one who watches that more frequently than I do. So if you ever want to tell him how terrible this is or how beautiful it is, you can do so. You can also send us a very private and hopefully
don't finish the thought.
Hopefully Talon fanfic at fanroulettepodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah.
I know this next part is in part, partially in part because of fans who have sent in stuff. So we greatly appreciate new questions and things like that. If you are looking for an easy place to tell people where to find us, if you're like, I could give you the SoundCloud link or whatever, but this would be easier. You can follow us and find us at www.fandomroulette.com. That's where we are.
What a website.
Yeah, all of our bios are there. Our episodes are posted there along with the link to where you can listen to them. We're on iTunes. What?
If you were like, man, I wanted to learn more about these two guys.
Yeah, if you want to learn like what is wrong with us, like on like a molecular level, you can find it there. We have our DNA strands posted in the corner of the website.
Yeah.
You can also find us on iTunes and SoundCloud. Feel free to share us around, like us, tell people what you think, etc., etc. We greatly appreciate it. We're going to at some point expand, but with the wedding and work and stuff, it is a little slow going, so I apologize for those who are looking for, other outlets to find us.
Yeah. We'll get there, we promise.
Oh, sorry, go on.
What?
We also have a Facebook group that is currently set to invisible.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's middle section. Middle section time. Boop, boop, boop.
That's good. That's a good one.
So, hey there, it's walking down the street. Who is it this week? It's a character of our own design. And by that I mean by the hands of fate. It's a garbage kid. Don't be late to learn about their life. Wow. That one actually rhymed, so yeah.
I like that one.
Take that.
That was a nice little jingle.
Bill. Take that, Bill Shakespeare. I'm coming for you.
Wow. That's
yeah. I'm calling him out right here, right now on this podcast. You can come find me.
For anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, this is our podcast within the podcast.
Yeah.
We take turns building characters with Xanathar's Guide to Everything.
Everything?
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 Yeah, it's everything.
Oh, okay.
For those of
I
you,
didn't realize it was that comprehensive.
everything. Yes, it's a very large book, and it keeps getting bigger.
Is that where I can
Um,
learn about Kenkus?
uh, unfortunately, yes, maybe, no, probably not.
No, it's actually in Volos. I was
Anyways,
I was I was calling out Wizards of the Coast, so there goes that sponsorship opportunity.
God damn it, you do this every time.
That's possible. I might. So, anyways, I made the character this week.
Right, and so for those of you who are playing role-playing games and want a
Yeah.
fun, silly character, or you're on the other side of the table and maybe you're a dungeon master or a game master, you can use these characters for fun. Please do. They're fun to make, and we want to give to the community.
It's true. And yeah, they're also really just kind of fun to roll with themselves. Like, you get the weirdest combinations of things, and I'm really excited about this one. I want to introduce you to my new friend. Her name is Midnight Chaos.
Oh, did
So
you
good,
find
right?
her at the corner of Hot Topic and Edge Central?
Kind of.
Yes.
Yeah. So she's true neutral. Pretty cool, right?
Ooh.
And she's a dwarf rogue, which like pretty good, right? Beefy little rogue running around.
I'm just imagining like a Chipotle burrito sneaking around.
And so she knew who her parents are because they're still
Boring.
alive,
Damn it.
and she's noble, so she's a noble rogue, kind of like my favorite, the Scarlet Pimpernel. She was born in a home, and she had 10 siblings who were all younger than her.
Holy crap, that's a lot of bros and sisses.
Yeah, dwarves have big families, I guess.
It's true.
And she had both a mother and a father. They were both alive. They lived comfortably in a large house, and she found it was very easy to make friends, and she loves being around other people. And so her family was disgraced, and she intends to clear their name and became a rogue because she took up with a group of ruffians who showed her how to get what she wanted through sneakiness rather than direct confrontation. And then, Cody, this is when things get fun.
Oh god, I'm excited. Tell me about
So,
her life.
She's 31 to 40 years old.
Okay. Is that
That's
like
a
dwarf
gift.
30, 40, or is she like super young?
I mean, I think that would put her in roughly her teenage years when it comes to dwarves.
Okay.
I think that's how that works. Because I think 50 is adulthood.
Okay. Yeah.
And she's had 4 life events.
Ooh.
So she made an enemy of an adventurer, and she was to blame for this rift between the two of them.
Oh, damn it.
She committed a crime of theft and
No.
was caught and convicted and forced to perform hard labor for 1 year, after which she escaped.
Cool.
And then, you know what she did after that?
What?
She made a friend of another adventurer.
Man, these adventurers just love to like hate and love.
She's kind of hot and cold on this one, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then she had a supernatural experience, which was that she witnessed a minor miracle.
Cool.
I don't know how that impacted her in any way, but that's what the book told me to tell you, my friend Cody. So anyway, that is Midnight Chaos.
Oh, so
I don't
good.
think that was her given name.
The Chaos Noble family. I love it.
Oh, wait a second. No. I'm assuming that's her, like, teenage edgelord, like, rogue name.
Oh, that's the name she gave herself when she finally said, "So long, nobility"?
Yeah.
Okay.
She said so long nobility to redeem her family's noble name. I don't know. She's an enigma. That Midnight Chaos.
I mean, there's some other things that I could point out, but you know what? We'll let the audience point that out instead.
Like what?
Well, like, so she's noble, right? She can kind of get whatever she wants because like her family's made of money. Why would she need to do it in a sneaky way?
Because her family was disgraced.
Yeah, but like she probably like were they disgraced like really early on?
I don't know. Maybe
Because like
so.
did she not grow up with no, like you said she lived a pretty comfortable childhood.
Yeah.
So like she probably didn't need to ask for a whole lot.
Who knows?
See,
I don't
we'll
know.
let the audience decide.
This was hey, I just did what the book told me.
Uh,
I just rolled dice.
Hell yeah. Well, I like
On
Midnight
big
Chaos.
table.
She sounds fun.
Yeah.
Definitely not somebody I would want to meet at the fantasy pub.
I don't know. She sounds like a good time.
She also might steal what I have.
It's possible, but hey, you take what you can get.
Yeah, I probably have to go to that pub without my money.
So Cody, I was thinking about something.
Yeah.
Maybe in the future, if we could figure out a way to like record a play session, like without it sounding like Garbo, maybe I will do a Xanathar's completely random role character, and do my best to play that character in an audio recording.
Oh, I love it.
Maybe we can make that like a bonus episode or something.
Stretch goal.
Yeah. All right. So, anyways, I heard that you were going to answer a question from a listener, because we have those apparently.
We do have listeners.
We're not just talking into like the void of a computer screen. Apparently,
right. The internet isn't just a void of numbers, of ones and zeros.
I mean,
I've got a question here from a good friend and loyal listener, John. Thank you, John. He asks,
John.
He says, doppelgangers. How would you plant one in the party without other players knowing? I've tried running them multiple times to no avail.
Okay.
So for those of you who do not know what a doppelganger is, say you're not in your role-playing circles and whatnot, and you'd still like to understand what we're talking about. Doppelgangers...
Or you've never read a German poem involving doppelgangers.
Correct. So either not big on the fantasy or not big in German folklore. You have doppelgangers, which are shapeshifters, or changelings is another term that is used for them. Basically, they are humanoid creatures that can transfer their appearance to look like somebody else that they have seen.
Okay.
In fact, if you look at the monster manual version of it, they can basically, as long as they've seen a creature, they can transform into them. Now, this poses a really fun Dungeon Master tool to use. You now have the ability to use these characters who are basically can be whatever they want. And so our listener has been having problems with them.
Sure.
So, personally, there are lots... If you open up a monster manual or if you're playing Dungeons & Dragons, you will get a lot of flavor about how each creature works, how dragons work, how beholders work, how doppelgangers work. A lot of the time, I take that with a grain of salt and run them how I think they work. Granted,
Sure.
I run mostly in a homebrew world. I don't use Eberron or wow, I'm blanking on every Dungeons and Dragons campaign right now. Anyways,
Curse of Strahd.
Yeah. So I play purely homebrew, and for me, doppelgangers are a great opportunity to run a series of encounters or encounters where combat isn't the main focus.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a pretty common rookie mistake as a dungeon master, is to run every monster as if it was going to battle.
Sure.
And I think it's kind of like when you start thinking in with portals, or you start thinking in the fourth dimension.
Ooh.
Doppelgangers, or rather, all creatures have some sort of advantage, something they're good at. Orcs, really good at traversing the field and doing a lot of damage. They're great frontline finders. Hobgoblins, they're very tactical. They do more damage if they're around their own kind. Goblins, they're really quick and they're able to kind of dip in and out of combat. Every monster in the monster manual or Volo's guide, they all have their strength in somewhere for varying levels of play. Doppelgangers, they're great ambushers. And they can shape change. This is the perfect time to start running a kind of tricky. I would actually use a doppelganger as a main bad guy for a group of level ones.
Okay.
Because a doppelganger could be anything, right?
That's true.
Maybe you talk to the bartender who told you to go out and deal with the wolf problem, and when you got to the place that the bartender told you, suddenly bandits showed up and tried to jump you. And now
Oh.
you're thinking, well, what the fuck? There are no wolves here. There's just bandits, and they're assholes. So then you go
Mhm.
back to the bartender, and the bartender has no idea who you are or that you even talked to him.
Okay.
Now you've created a mystery. Well, what the hell happened? Who was that?
Mhm.
Then maybe the next quest they pick up, because, maybe they can't go any further than that. Maybe a shopkeep is like, hey, I need you to deliver this at this time of day to this person, and oh, great, there's another ambush. Or maybe the doppelganger's waiting for you at the ambush site. I wouldn't try to put doppelgangers with the party
Okay.
unless there was a reason for them to be there.
Sure.
For instance, maybe the doppelganger knows it's not strong enough to go through the wild countryside, and so it plays or pretends to be a a noble person, or maybe it's a beggar. Maybe it's, it could be anybody.
Uh-huh.
Honestly, at that point, a doppelganger doesn't have a whole lot of armor. It doesn't have a lot of hit points. But what they are good
Okay.
at is ambushing. They get advantage on attack rolls against any creature that it's surprised.
Whoa. That's
And
pretty
it
cool.
does basically rogue sneak attack damage.
Oh, nice.
Another cool bit is that the doppelganger magically reads the surface thoughts of one creature within 60 feet of it.
Whoa.
So it can tell when people are suspicious or weary, and they get a +6 to their deception,
Dang.
which at that level is pretty crazy. It means, for the most part, they are succeeding on all of their deception checks.
Uh-huh.
The way I would use a doppelganger is not necessarily to plant it in the party in hopes to, haha, surprise them in the middle of the night as they, start wailing on someone. I would use them in a long con. I would have them work the party to their goals. So, like, what, and I guess this is another part of the game, is most sentient creatures have some kind of motivation. So what is the doppelganger motivated by? Is it secretly a noble who wants to get richer and realizes that the adventuring party can do things for it at a reasonable price? Half the
That's
time
true.
it's just experience and going around questing. You can use the typical adventuring party to the doppelganger's advantage. Say a rival gang in
Uh-huh.
town that is stopping the doppelganger from kind of furthering its plot. Give the adventuring party a couple of gold and say, "Hey, I'll pay you to go flush out these bad guys." Boom, suddenly that doppelganger just got super strong, and whenever they don't need it, or whenever the doppelganger doesn't need the party anymore, they can just change into somebody else and run.
That's true.
I wouldn't I would only ever use the doppelganger's like actual combat abilities in two places.
Okay.
One, the party's onto it.
Uh-huh.
The party has rolled very successfully on figuring out that there is a doppelganger. Like, I think that's the first big hurdle, is figuring out why you're being duped.
Okay.
And then I think the second big part is, how do you trick the doppelganger into a bad position? Because it can read
Yeah.
surface thoughts, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as you were talking about it, was like it would be a good, like, yeah, this isn't the kind of guide that you would throw in. Now, I have a question for you,
Yeah.
which is, would you give the character like a noticeable tell, or maybe not a noticeable tell, but like definitely like a tell that, like, if you have a person at the table who's like, really paying attention, like, oh, like that is the same kind of like finger snap that the bartender did, or things like that, to maybe make it like a little bit easier to discover it in subsequent things. Or I don't know if that
Hmm.
question even made sense.
No, I think so. Would I role play so that somebody outside or the player could figure it out before the character?
The big reveal, yeah.
Right, and I think I would say no.
Okay.
I think if you do figure it out, like that's cool, but I don't think I would want to give it away like that.
Okay.
Maybe in conversation, like maybe I roll poorly for the doppelganger and he does have some kind of tick or a tell that you would notice after time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it would be more, at least I think it would be more exciting for your characters to be like, oh, we've been duped. Who's been duping us? And then you find out that, like, oh shit, there's this doppelganger that's been, like, tormenting us. I think that'd be more fun personally, but I don't see why, if you were a more role play heavy group, I don't see why you wouldn't do that. I think that would be a better option for those people.
Sure. Yeah, it was just something I was thinking of, like, were I in that position?
Right.
This whole conversation reminds me of a comic I saw once, both independently and then my friend sent it to me from a comic called Skull Kickers, where it's these two guys and they're in a bar and they're talking about how they're being chased by a doppelganger.
Okay.
And they're talking and they're like, well, we need to come up with like a code word, maybe to show that like the other person isn't the doppelganger. And they're going through and the one guy's like, well, what about this word? The guy's like, no, I don't think so. And after a while, the other guy just kind of smashes his head in and he leads in and goes, we came up with the code word yesterday, you unsuccessful little bastard. And it turns out that he knew the whole time it was a doppelganger, and then his friend comes back with 2 mugs of ale. It's like, oh, I suppose we need to leave this bar a nice tip then, don't we? If I can find it, I'll give you a link to the official site.
Yeah, for
or I'll
sure.
tweet it out. But this whole conversation just made me think of that. And it's like creating a code word pretty quickly, just so everyone knows. Because I was also thinking in terms of like, you could very easily like, bring Guth back, but as like a doppelganger or something.
Right. And so I guess this is the long... What?
That might be fun.
It might be. So I think the long way around is, to answer the question, I wouldn't... if I was going to hide them within the party, I would make them an NPC.
Yes.
Quest giver who is eager to go along with them, but I would give no hints unless the characters or players ask for it or roll well enough to try to figure that out. I think adventuring parties for the most part are either not going to care or they're going to be so paranoid by any other person joining the party that they're going to think there's some kind of monster anyways. There's so many creatures in the monster manual that are like, hey, join us, and then you get to eat us later, kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. Like, there's mimics. There are literal monsters that take the shape of modern, mundane, and fantastical objects and try to devour you. I think there's a reason why adventurers are paranoid.
Yeah, it's almost like it's boiled into the system or something.
Yeah, so I think the short answer is I would use them as like an NPC, some kind of quest giver, or maybe they're trying to escort them. Maybe they're the quest giver who's like, I need you to escort me to another town or another location. And then when the time is right, the doppelganger would only ever attack one person at a time if it knew that it was going to win. So probably would never fight your frontline fighter fairly.
Yes.
And it would definitely try to get into like a hand-to-hand combat with like the party's wizard.
Yep. It's a very the Thing type situation.
Oh, for sure. If you're looking for inspiration, The Thing is a perfect movie for I guess The Thing, the spoilers for The Thing, I guess.
20-year-old movie.
Yeah, well, they tried to remake it, didn't they?
Oh, that's true. They did, didn't they?
Right. So, spoiler alert, there is a sort of doppelganger situation in The Thing. And that is a good movie to use as reference for the kind of feel that you're going to get for including one. It's
I would
definitely
agree with
like
that.
paranoia and stuff like that.
Sure.
So,
And I guess I would also say too, if you are doing the thing, that would be so hard to pull off at a table.
you would have to
Trying
have
to
a
think
group
about
of
this stuff.
people who are very open to letting the DM kind of move things in a certain way.
Yeah, or you could do like like Battlestar Galactica, the board game situation, where like you pass out randomly distributed like, "Are you the thing?" card, "Are you the
Yeah.
doppelganger?" card, and then the GM makes eye contact with the person playing the doppelganger, and they almost like co-DM the session or something.
Right, right. I think that could work. That'd be a fun game. I know there's plenty of like board games and stuff that also do that. So,
Yeah,
but
loyalty
no,
systems.
doppelgangers are
So
super cool, and I would like to answer more of these questions about monsters and things like that because
yeah,
I do
keep
think
'em-
it's a good exercise on not only my part but for other people to kind of look at what Wizards of the Coast gave us and figure out ways to make those things interesting.
and your own.
Yeah,
Because at the end of the day, it's your own. So
it's true.
it's not like there's a Wizard of the Coast rep sitting at your table with you, like, that's not how. That's not how the breath weapon works, Cody.
Actually, I believe
Aha.
multi-attack.
Now you've ruined the Wizard of the Coast sponsorship.
No!
But yes, keep the questions coming. This was actually very fascinating for me as a player to sit here and think of how I would run it personally.
Yeah.
Who knows? Before this is over, I'll probably DM at least once. So,
You make it sound like there will be an end to this.
oh, that's true. The end is death. What?
So let's move
So
on to
anyways.
our last section, which
Yeah, we have a grab bag section this week.
yeah,
Which was Cody and I haven't really. Well, like I said, I haven't been doing that much like actual media watching,
sure.
and it sounds like you're in a similar boat, from the sounds of it.
Yeah, I haven't been able to binge like I usually do.
Yeah, I think that's been, yeah, that's true for me too. Just between everything, last weekend was the holiday and all kinds of fun stuff.
Right, right.
But yeah, so we both watched like roughly the first half of two almost radically different superhero programs.
Right.
So we both want to talk a little bit about it, even though they're both kind of works in progress. So, do you want to
sure.
start off, Cody?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
So this is going to be mild spoilers for Jessica Jones season 2. I'm gonna wait until I watch the whole thing to spoil the big thing that just happened to me.
Okay.
And I think it's interesting because we're both watching two very different superhero shows,
Yes.
and that's kind of the theme of this one. And I've actually been at first I wasn't sure how I was going to like Jessica Jones season 2. Like I was excited for it,
Sure.
but
Sure.
I always feel like when you have such a really good first season, or maybe you just had a really good season, that next season always has so much to like live up to.
I would agree with that.
And so I was a little nervous, but after watching it, I am not nervous at all. It's been very good. It's, Jessica Jones just straight down into it. She's back on another big important case. The world is kind of changing around her, and so I'll spoil a little bit of season 1. So if you haven't watched season 1, you might want to wait on
Turn this off.
this last little bit. Are they gone?
I don't know.
Do you think they're gone?
Oh,
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 oh, get out of here.
hey! I see you over there. Take those headphones off.
Oh,
I
okay.
know. You're sitting next to a guy on the bus, and you don't want him to see you take your headphones off, because then he might try to engage you in conversation. But take them off, just for a second.
Just for a second.
So let's spoiler, Cody.
Yeah, so spoilers. Jessica Jones finally kills another person
Uh-huh.
of her own volition
Huh.
at the end of season 1.
Would you say it's a colorful person?
Yes, definitely.
All right, put your headphones back on. Wait, how
So
did they
with
hear that,
that,
Cody?
what?
How did they hear me tell them to put their headphones back on? Oh,
Well,
they were cheating the whole time.
damn it.
It's a
So
good bit.
with the end of season 1 and the things that happened in season 1, those things are starting to carry over and kind of affecting the way people perceive her.
Oh, interesting.
So there are little, like, I think the first case that she's working on, the minor ones that she works on from time to time,
Uh-huh.
the person very much asks her to do the same thing.
Oh, so now she's like almost like a hitman.
Yeah, so people are starting to see her as this very different character, and that's not what she wants to be remembered by. Like, there is an obvious, like, dissonance with how people perceive her and how she wants to be perceived, and part of that goes into her kind of digging into her past, and that's kind of the focal point of the season. Is they very specifically have her kind of looking into, the car accident and all of these things, and sure enough, there's a person who's trying to stop her from digging deeper, and that person's probably super.
Okay.
I'm trying not to spoil the
Sure.
big stuff, but yeah, someone is stopping her at every turn, and it's been really good, and it's been very engaging, and I like that it's also about the characters that have been through the show, like her next door neighbor, who I'm blanking on the name right now.
Malcolm, I believe.
Yeah, he's a really big part of this season.
That's cool.
Trinity. God, I'm blanking on all the names because
Her Jerry.
Yeah, she's a really big part of it, and there's a big plot point with her, and spoilers for that I won't get into, but it kind of puts her a little bit in the forefront. Her adopted sister, is that what you call it? Adopted sister? Yeah. Her sister from another mother has some pretty big, like, some big things happen to her, and like, it's not just about Jessica Jones, but also about the people around her, which has been really fun to watch, because I really liked those characters in the first season, and they just, in my opinion, get better as the seasons progress, or as this season progresses.
That's rad.
And it's all very, like, kind of dark and gloomy. Like, most of these character development points are not great.
Yeah. Well, it's very noir-y.
Right, and I think that's kind of the angle that they want to do with Jessica Jones, and I'm pretty sure that's how the comics were too. Is a very kind of dark, gritty, noir-esque story, instead of your typical, like, I'm saving the day, yeah.
Yeah. Well, funny that you should mention. So I watched the first half of the first season of Amazon original The Tick, which is about as polar opposite a show from Jessica Jones as you can get. So the Tick was a kind of parody comic along the lines of the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I believe it was created in like the 80s or something like that. It had a long-running animated series, and then in 2001, there was a brilliant, short-lived it was one season, and even then I think it was like a 13 test episode season, starring Patrick Warburton as the Tick, and then other characters included Nestor Carbonella as the best character, whose name was Batman Well. And it was kind of unceremoniously canceled after one season, and it was a cult favorite for a really long time. And then it was announced that Amazon.com was going to bring it back, with Patrick Warburton producing, and some of the original team in there as well. And so instead of Patrick Warburton, it is Peter Serafinowicz, who's most famous for, he was in Guardians of the Galaxy, and he was the guy who had the famous trailer line, "What a bunch of a-holes." And so it's a comedy show. So The Tick is this very dumb, almost parody, gold Silver Age superhero who just loves justice, and he loves staying on top of buildings and monologuing for, hours upon hours. And he is very dumb. He's very enthusiastic. He doesn't know who he is. Like, there's a very good chance that he might just be the Tick. Like, he might have just been born as this weird superhero. And then he teams up with this everyman whose name is Arthur, who in the Patrick Warburton show is a guy who's like kind of like a closet wannabe superhero, but he doesn't have any powers, and all he has is this weird suit that makes him look like a moth, but everyone thinks he looks like a bunny. But in the new show, Arthur is kind of reluctantly dragged along, and it turns out that his suit actually has powers, and it's kind of this MacGuffin suit. And initially, I was very afraid and kind of, I would say, almost turned off by the show, because like the first 2 episodes are like funny enough, but they take themselves very seriously. And then in episode 4, that's when it really started hitting its stride for me, personally. Because in that episode, they go to Arthur's stepdad's birthday party, and he tells the Tick not to show up, but who shows up? It's the Tick. And then also one of the main villains, whose name is Miss Lint, because she has static electricity powers, so she would get covered in lint, who's trying to force Arthur to turn the suit over to her. And it introduces an amazing character named Derek, who's her like bitter ex-husband. And they share their condo together. So like it's becoming increasingly more funny, and it's very sincere. And I know that's like what a lot of people point to for its biggest strengths. It's like it's an overwhelmingly sincere superhero show, which I think is really nice. They like hugging each other a lot, and it's in a very like, I'm here to comfort you, friendo kind of way, and it's a nice little show. But it's definitely growing on me. I'm going to finish the season because it really started hitting its stride. They also introduced a character. So my friend pointed out the animated series was very much parodying like the Batman animated show in a lot of ways. The 2001 Tick was very much like parodying like your like soap or your like sitcoms like Friends and things like that. So it's very much like a buddy comedy hangout thing. And then this one is kind of parodying the self-serious like the Arrowverse and like the Marvel verse. So there's a character that they established whose name was like, I think his name's Overwatch, who is like your very like parody, like he has like 15 knives and he's like a super assassin who went off the grid. And then you find out that he has a like sassy robot AI roommate who like is an aspiring DJ. And also like one episode he comes home, he looks up some information that he leaves, and the robot AI is like, oh, so you're just gonna walk off like it was no big thing, huh? And I was like, oh, okay, that's what the show needed, was a sassy AI roommate. I see what you're putting down, the Tick series. So yeah, it's really starting to build up, and it's not taking itself quite as serious, which I appreciate. And it's getting better every time I watch it. So I'm excited to see where season 1 goes, and I know for a fact they were confirmed for season 2 because the guy who plays Arthur is a host on a podcast I like called Blank Check with Griffin and David. Check it out; it's a good podcast. So yeah, the Tick, it's a lot of fun. So
yeah, well, it sounds good.
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe at some, I definitely at some point will watch Jessica Jones season 2. Maybe at some point you can watch the Tick, and we can compare notes. Yeah, but I think it's about time that we wrap her up. So
yeah,
the janitor's coming through with his podcast broom.
Oh, he's got his own podcast broom? I'm so jealous. Yeah. I didn't get one.
He's singing a song. And it's time to say farewell. The podcast is ending. My friends, we'll see you soon. It's a beautiful song. And he's singing it. He has like a single tear as he's sweeping out this podcast.
Aw, but don't worry. We'll come back. We'll be here next week. Yeah,
we will. And now I'll see you soon, my friends. The podcast is over. All right, so anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening to this awesome episode of Phantom Roulette.
Yes, this has been silly as shit.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that we're going to just keep this silliness rolling from now on.
So sleep deprivation every time we podcast?
I mean, not maybe. Who knows?
Who knows?
Probably happening.
Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today.
This was a good. Yes, we appreciate it so much. Go back and consult the middle section for all of the ways that you can get in touch with us. And signing off for Fan Roulette, this is Joe.
And I'm Cody.
And as always, stay nerdy.
Stay super nerdy.